The Trump Organization has just been sentenced on the 17 counts of tax fraud that it was found guilty of in December of last year, and has been ordered to pay the maximum fine. Now, you might think, well, okay, how much? How much is this fine? Great news. Is it going to teach Trump Organization? No, because it turns out that the maximum fine, was $1.6 million. That's it. For what Manhattan Assistant Attorney Joshua Steinglass called a, quote, far-reaching and brazen scheme to avoid paying their taxes. In fact, Steinglass said that the sheer magnitude of this fraud merits the largest financial sanction authorized by law, which again only equaled $1.6 million. Now, Steinglass added that the defendants had cultivated a pervasive culture of fraud, and yet are any of the, executives other than CFO Alan Weisselberg, are they facing any consequences? No, not at all. The people who perpetuated and created or cultivated that culture of fraud are seeing nothing happen to them at all. And I'll get to that. And so, look, the whole thing, the company gets a slap in the wrist. This is despite Judge Juan Merchan imposing the maximum sentence allowable by law. That verdict, according to Insider, delivered December 6th, held the Trump Organization liable for the criminal conduct of some of its top executives. Again, mainly Alan Weisselberg, the former chief financial officer who was sent to jail on Rikers Island earlier this week for arranging nearly $2 million of his compensation to be off the books. Prosecutors said the Trump Organization arranged for Weisselberg and other company executives to receive part of their compensation in perks, like private school tuition and car payments, to evade taxes. In doing so, prosecutors said the executives had some intent to help the company pay less in salaries, bonuses, and payroll taxes. Now, do we know how much they screwed over the state of New York when it came to not paying their taxes? Very likely more than $1.6 million. And did they have to pay it back? Well, that's a more important question. No, they did not. And so the reason this is enraging is that this is an example of corporate rule. The organization that defrauded the government in taxes, paying less so that, by the way, average people ended up paying more, get a maximum penalty of a fraction of what they made in the profit. And the CFO goes to jail for 5 months. 5 months. People have gotten life in prison for possessing marijuana. This guy does massive brazen tax fraud. 5 months. 5 months. Shoplifting can get you up to a year in county jail, depending on where you are. Shoplifting. That's anything under $2,000. You go over that, you could go to federal prison for more than Alan Weisselberg will spend in prison. And I understand, but he got a plea deal, and so he got a reduced sentence because of that. But he was kind of cooperating, but also wasn't really cooperating because, that whole case. And then you still had, by the way, the Trump Organization's lawyers claiming that it was just all Alan Weisselberg. Everything was on him. He's the fall guy. He gets 5 months at Rikers, and then, doesn't have to pay back any of the money, doesn't have to do anything other than that. Great. So essentially steal unpaid taxes, steal millions in unpaid taxes. And if you're rich, your company pays a fine, and that's it. You get a fall guy, and yet these people spend more time in prison than someone who could potentially have done rape oftentimes don't see any prison time at all. So what I'm trying to point at is that there's a two-tier justice system where rich people have an advantage. They rarely get punished, and if they do, the punishment ends up being incredibly weak. In addition to the fine, ABC News reports that one possible consequence would be the Trump organization facing financial collateral consequences that could be more severe if banks call in loans or business partners cancel contracts due to internal clauses that prohibit doing business with felons. And you know what would happen if they lose all their income, all their business today? The company would declare bankruptcy, and then everyone involved, all the executives, would just get a golden parachute and go start other companies. That's it. Oh, or they could settle and rebrand. Again, Donald Trump himself has declared bankruptcy 6 times. And honestly, with Donald Trump already a tainted brand, most people are not going to touch him unless, of course, they want favors for a possible Trump 2024 administration. But honestly, I can't see a whole lot of people who still do business with Trump suspending him over this. I think a lot of the business that Trump has been doing is with the Saudis anyway. Look, when it comes to Trump organization, fraud is their business model. That's it. Anybody who knows, who's still in business with them, knows that's what it is, whether they like to admit it or not. So that's it. Now, the judge had admonished the defense, as I mentioned before, for continuing to blame the company's accountant for all that fraud, saying that, quote, it's not what the evidence has showed, and it's not what the jury had found. But are any of the lawyers going to face any penalty? No, the lawyers got paid. And the executives, Trump himself, the CEO, the one who set the culture of fraud, is personally untouched. Despite the fact that he knew almost certainly about the fraud. He signed the checks, did the memos, knew exactly what he was doing. In fact, he bragged about it. During his 2016 campaign, he said not paying his taxes was a genius business move. And actually, I kind of got to agree with him. He's right. He's made far more off cheating the government than his company has ever had to pay in restitution. And you think he cares about Weisselberg going to jail for, prison for 5 months? No. In this system, you'd have to be dumb to play by the rules. And it sucks. Now, this is why, of course, there's 2 different approaches to this. Trump and all these criminals' approach to it is, well, we're not going to get caught anyway, so let's just do crime. These rules are easily broken, so why not just break them over and over and over again? But I think that we need better rules and actually need to enforce them. But we'll never get better rules and we'll never get enforcement as long as politicians have incentives. So there's the system of incentives and disincentives, right? They have an incentive right now to favor corporations and wealthy people over the voters. They have an incentive to follow the will of the owner-donors and a disincentive to follow the will of the voters, which are oftentimes at odds because most people in this country want fair rules on corporations. They want rich people to pay their fair share. They want corporations to, pay taxes, what they owe. But again, with that system of incentives and disincentives, politicians are incentivized to take the side of those who sign the checks. And that's exactly what's going on here. If you are tired of wealthy people and corporations getting away, if you're tired of this system, then you really have to target the root cause of this. And that's the money inside of our political system. If we can get rid of the money, we can get rid of 99% of the corruption. We just actually have to stop, the money in politics, stop the dark money, the campaign money, the End Citizens United, and go after those, cases, go after those laws, which allow open bribery in the form of campaign contributions. End that system, end the corruption.